You're listening to Charting the Future, a podcast for independent pediatricians by PCC. For more information about our software and services, please visit www.pcc.com or visit us on social media.
Hello, friends. I am here at the 2026 PMI, where we this morning got to see Sue Kresley give a great talk, and Christoph and Sue Berman. And you know what? Christoph is one of the few people you can just say his first name, and everyone knows who you're talking about. And I got a little greedy and took an opportunity to snag the one and only Dr. Sandy Chung to come chat with me, and she was gracious enough to say hello. I can't believe, seriously, I can't believe she was willing to come on the podcast, but she also has some pretty cool stuff to talk about. We're live. We're in one of the side rooms, and so who knows? They're going to walk through the buffet in a minute. I wanted Sandy to tell you her pediatrician story and then tell us what she's up to. So, Sandy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Joe. This is fun.
Honestly, I already prepped her. I said, here's some questions I'm going to ask you, but there are like 20 more that I really want to ask. But we're going to start in the same place. Oh, no, there's a question.
Okay.
Because I don't know the answer to this. Do you remember when we first met formally?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't remember when we first met. I do remember being at a conference with you and hanging out at your cabin during
a
PCC conference.
So that was
when I got to know you more as a person, I think, sort of informally. But I remember seeing you.
I think it was
a long time ago.
I think the first time we spoke at more than just a couple sentences, I think it was at Women in Peds. It was on the bus to
Terry Passel, yes.
Believe it or not, Sandy Chung has been to the Floribama. For those of you who know what I'm talking about. But yes, we talked on the bus on the floor.
Yes, I remember that.
That
was great.
I don't know if that's the first time, but I don't know. I've had some funny first moments with people, and I just started asking. So far, this is one I couldn't remember, but everyone else has remembered. Anyway, Sandy, I happen to know it because I've seen you talk about it, but I would love to start with your core effort, which is how did you become a pediatrician? When did you learn you wanted to be a pediatrician?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, tell me your story.
Yeah, happy to. It might help to give a little background.
Yeah, sure, of course.
You've never heard, some people may not have heard it. My parents actually immigrated here from China. And when they got here, because they couldn't speak English very well, my mom actually, despite having a master's degree, ended up sewing clothes in a factory. And then my dad, similarly with a master's degree, couldn't get a job and worked as a waiter at a restaurant. And that was in Illinois. And I was actually born in Illinois. And so I was born into that space. We're very poor, lived in a trailer park, we're on Medicaid. My dad used to take me as an infant in the little car seat and put me under his desk at class because he was still in school at that time.
Yep.
And my mom likes to tell everybody I went to college when I was a baby. So then basically, eventually they opened up a Chinese restaurant, and I grew up working in a small business in a Chinese restaurant. I didn't know it, but that was my training grounds for owning a.
Oh, yeah, you learned our list.
Apparently I did. But yeah, and so I didn't actually know that I wanted to be a doctor, except I had a project in the fourth grade where I had to tell my classmates, what I wanted to be when I grew up. And my parents actually didn't participate in healthcare. We'd have to be bleeding or dying to go anywhere. And if we did, we'd go to an urgent care facility. And I remember doing that once. And we'd go to the health department for our shots. But I had to do a project, and I was standing at the bus stop, and one of my neighbors, a friend of mine, his mother was standing there, and I was sort of saying out loud, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And she said to me, Sandy, you should become a doctor. And it turns out she was a nurse, and she was an OR nurse. And so I'm like, okay. And she's gave me these things to wear, like the little OR hat cover and the shoe covers and the gown. And she gave me a tongue depressor, and she gave me this disposable stethoscope. Now I know that's what it was. But back then I was like, oh my gosh, she gave me this super valuable thing. And I wore it out to school, and I was so proud. And when you say you want to be a doctor, you get a lot of positive reinforcement, including from my parents. Yeah. And so that's how I ultimately became a doctor.
A couple words changes a life.
Amazing. Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that part of the story.
Yeah. And I think that's something we all need to remember,
Right.
because we see kids all day long, and you just have to say, why don't you become a doctor?
Right.
And they just might,
And why don't you become a pediatrician?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really enjoyed kids. And I think I loved working with kids. And part of me, my parents, they said, worked in a restaurant.
Yep.
So their hours were from 4 p.m. typically, well, actually noon for the days they had lunch, until midnight. And so I had 2 younger brothers. And so I was the parent, if you will, of my younger brothers. And so I just really gravitated towards taking care of kids. And so I became I worked at our summer school. We had a Bible school program, and I would always help on the daycare, so, that type of thing. So I really loved kids growing up. And as I got older, and so when I went into medicine, I was thinking about psychiatry, surgery, family practice, or pediatrics.
Quite a range.
Yeah, it was indeed. And when I talked to had a mentor who was a pediatric neurologist, and he told me, Sandy, when you decide what specialty you want to go into, look at what they're doing every day, because the things that they're doing, the really fun, exciting stuff, they're not going to do every day. So look at their every day and see what you really like.
What are they doing from 10 to noon on one Wednesday?
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. And when I framed it that way, and I just, every day you saw a kid, you saw how happy we, whether the doctors were or were not, they looked really happy when they walked into the rooms and greeted the families, and the kids were adorable. The adults just smelled bad. So I just wasn't into that. And I also really like talking to people.
Yep.
And so when you're in pediatrics, you get the happiness of playing with a kid or talking to a child, but you also talk to the parents, and you get to reassure them, and you get to hear their stories. So you really get 2 patients for one visit.
It's a massively intrinsically rewarding specialty.
It's incredible.
Right.
It's incredible. And it's such an honor to be able to do that for families, and also to know that impact you have will last a lifetime for that child. It's incredible.
I just want the listeners to know, all right, you all know that Sandy was AAP president, so I want you to think about the nonsense that she had to deal with as AAP president, and she's still not jaded. So if you're listening to this and jaded, slow down. You appreciate the privilege that you have to take care of kids.
Oh, yeah. It's such an incredible honor,
right?
And just remembering that every day is an important part of what we do and that we should do to keep ourselves grounded.
I'm sincerely, it's why I like working with you guys. You're all friendly. You all smile. If I ever thought, what if I had accidentally worked for an orthopedic surgery EHR company? All my clients would be sociopaths, and I would probably talk myself into, they're saving people, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Well, we're different. I was walked into a meeting once, and it was a multi-specialty and primary care meeting. And I was introducing myself to someone, and she's like, I'm an internist. I'm like, and I said, I'm a pediatrician. She's like, I know. And I said, how do you know? And she's like, because you're smiling. You look happy.
I gave a talk once at in New Jersey, and it was a talk at a restaurant, and the restaurant had a couple little banquet rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I went looking for my meeting, and so I walked in, and there were a couple people sitting around, and there's a pediatric type. I was like, these are some pediatric people. So I walked in, got set up, and this next group of pediatricians came in, and the woman looked up at me, and she said, ADD? And I was like, I haven't even talked to you yet. How did you know? How did you know? And she said, and I was like, yeah. So she sat down, but 5 minutes later, she was like, oh, I meant the ADD talk. I was in the banquet room. I was in the banquet room next to us. And I was like, man, usually I have to do something stupid to get it diagnosed. But yeah, that was a moment.
Great. Love that.
You get triggered by someone at a bus stop, tricked into becoming a pediatrician in a way, though clearly
inspired.
Yes, and it's clearly just that's who you are. I don't know what kind of genius she had to know, but you became a pediatrician. Yeah,
whatever it was.
We all are. But so then, how did you go from that to being an independent practice?
Yeah. So when I actually did my continuity clinic in residency, we did our outpatient rotations. We did our continuity clinic, and I actually just joined that practice. I toyed with the idea of specializing when I was in residency. But again, my mentor's advice came into my head, look at what they do every day and see if you like that and are you happy doing that work? And general pediatrics was for me. So now when I joined my practice, though, I learned I actually was trying to understand the business of what we were doing. And I think growing up in that restaurant.
I was about to say, this is where the restaurant comes in. You're like, wait a minute. Right, this does not run like a family.
Bills actually happen here at Fidel. So. And so I realized I really enjoyed that. So I, early when I joined the practice, I really like a year and a half in was I said to them, I really want to learn about the business side of this practice. And they were like, great.
So that was also fortunate in a way because there's so, I maybe you would have known this intuitively and not joined that practice, but there's so many practices at the time you would have joined. If a new female associate came in and said, I want to learn how to run this practice, they would have said no.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Fair point. Yeah.
So
a very open-minded practice, which I'm very grateful for. And some really great business people that were business doctors that were running it at the time. And they were like, okay, let's start teaching you. But I also realized I needed formal education. That's how I learned best. And so I went ahead and got my master's in health administration during those early years. I did it an executive program, so it was before that was really a big deal. But I was working full time and had one baby at the time. Was pregnant with my second.
Of course, I mean,
and
why do the easy way?
Then I was in my master's program. I remember taking my final exam for one of my master's classes. And I had just delivered my baby. He was born December 4th. It was the end of the semester. I asked the professor, could I take my exam at home? He said, sure. And, I signed the honor system, whatever. So in the hospital with my newborn next to me in the bassinet, I did my final exam because I knew as soon as I went home, I would have nobody to watch my baby.
Right.
In the hospital, there was nurses. There were all these wonderful people.
That story has never made it to one of your presentations.
No.
Wow. They're exclusive.
Indeed. So, but got my master's. That sped me up a little bit in what I knew and what I needed to know, and then became managing partner of my practice shortly thereafter. And then at that time, my practice was about 6 clinicians, and we had 2 locations. And then as grew the practice, learning a lot from you, from Polly, from everybody that was teaching things at the time, SOPAM, all of these great places to learn. And then grew my practice. And then in 2018, I had been doing the contract negotiations, doing all that for decades, and decided as I was watching the environment in healthcare and I'd been involved in other side things like an IPA that had adult medicine and pediatrics, all was happening to them. It decided that, okay, I need to do something for pediatrics because we're not going to make it. I don't want to sell to private equity. I don't want to be health system owned. So how can we survive? And so formed and then
By the way, that's awesome. Yeah, like you're saying the stuff that warms my heart.
Oh, okay, good. And I think understanding there had to be an alternative. I mean, there just had to be an alternative. And so created a group called Trusted Doctors, and then we became that alternative. So we're not private equity owned. Now we have over 25 practices, 300 clinicians, 46 locations across DC, Virginia, Maryland, and really happy to have an alternative and really feel passionately that this absolutely works. And so if there's anybody out there in your audience who would like to learn more on how to do that, I'm happy to help.
She's not kidding.
Yeah, I will help anybody who wants to do this. I think it's so important that we all have an alternative to, just selling to another entity. I mean, I understand there's a purpose to that too for a lot of people.
Sometimes that glove fits, but I'm realizing that this is going to sound a little ridiculous or overblown, but one of the inescapable conclusions of the way that we are capitalists here in the U.S. is that bigger is always better. And when it comes to a service business, and specifically a business that requires relationships, which yours does. I mean, relationships don't scale. And so bigger isn't better. A health system doesn't know how to deal with pediatrics and a hospital doesn't know how to deal with pediatrics because the hospital doesn't have relationships with patients like pediatricians do.
That's right.
And so, yes, there are some things where bigger is better, and there are ways to be organized. There are ways to share resources. There are ways to, but I'll say it this way. I think the inefficiency of a small pediatric practice is what, in fact, makes it effective.
Fair.
And
right.
The inefficiency of a practice is what a PE firm considers to be potential. And that's the potential is for the money, but not for the quality of the care.
Yeah.
And that's the part that people are missing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you aren't missing it.
Yes.
And we in the business aren't missing it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
One
of our I'm part of lots of different clinically integrated networks and so forth, but I do have an IPA that I run, and it is made up of largely solo practices, 1 to 2, and of course trusted doctors, so this is a big thing, but and we do extremely well in value-based agreements,
right,
without all the hoopla and the everything that people have in different networks, which you need sometimes too. I do a lot of medical director of informatics roles for different CINs, but I think that understanding at the core, good care, is that one-on-one relationship.
Yes.
And when you have a smaller practice, you can absolutely deliver that in the best way possible.
Right, because you can get up tomorrow and change the protocol. You can get up tomorrow and say, all right, what you make it up doesn't matter. We're going to make sure that everyone's HPV'd by 13. We're going to do fluoride. We're going to do whatever. And in your healthcare system, that's an 18-month endeavor minimally, and it's not done well, right? I think there's ultimately, this is I've talked about this a lot, but not well. That this reminds me of something I learned in high school. When you take the Locke and Rousseau debate to healthcare, we've got to have the Locke perspective, which is the doctor and the patient.
Yeah.
That's the only relationship that matters, and they need the freedom and to do whatever they think is best, and restrict the doctors as little as possible.
Sure. Yeah. I think so much of it depends on each person is its own situation, and in their own environment. And especially as pediatricians, we've learned over the years by being with the same family what their environment is, or things that matter. Like, I know you need to do this, but you can't right now because you just lost your job, and that your husband's about to do this, and you're worried that you're going to get moved to wherever because of your husband's job situation. And so let's not worry about that today. But why don't we do this today? Because we can get that done. And
very bright futures of you to think that way. And our friends in the PE industry look at all of your transactions and say, this is an algorithm. And if we can just get everyone to follow the algorithm, and I'm like, you can't algorithm all of human behavior. It's too broad.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Well, all right. So tell me more about what Trusted Doctors is up to right now.
Yeah. So, when we formed a big group, we got all of these discounts because we were large enough. So with different vendors, different, all sorts of things. And what happened was when I finished being AAP president, I was thinking about, okay, I still have hopefully many years in my career. And so I think Lee and I are the youngest people to be AAP president. And so, which is a very unusual thing for us. Yes. And so we're like, okay, now what do we do? Where do I go with my life? And so obviously we had Trusted Doctors, really proud of that, really working on making sure that runs smoothly, that we're doing lots of good things for the practices that joined us. But as I was traveling around the country, got a really good perspective of all the challenges that were happening everywhere, and many of them the same, some very different, very geographic specific, but others were very similar. And that struggle to stay independent was pretty pervasive across the board.
It is.
And so thinking, okay, well, what can we do? Trusted Doctors is not our goal for the medical group, was not to expand it, but were there parts of it we could grow and expand and offer outward?
Yep.
And that included things like those vendor discounts, services like billing, HR, those types of things. And I realized that there are all sorts of people out there already offering these things, but is there a way that we could do it where we are pediatricians ourselves? We have been through what they're going through potentially, and do it in a way that fits whatever they need as far as a practice goes. So your practice, if you are a solo practice in Alabama, tell me what you need and how can I help you and solve for that. And so it could be things like expense reduction. So then we formed this new thing called Trusted Doctors Alliance, where we took all of our discounts that we were getting at Trusted Doctors, moved them over to the Alliance. And now it's a separate entity, which we can offer to anybody in the country. And so there are things like GPOs, group purchasing organizations, vaccine buying groups. We have those things too. But that actually isn't the ultimate purpose. It's a convenient way to say, hey, if you would like a discount.
Right. So it's something everyone understands at first.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So like one practice joined us, they saved $23,000 on just their Abbott ID Now purchases alone, just that one contract we have. Then they had another one who came onto our McKesson agreement and saved $14,000. So when you start adding up $14,000, $23,000, and you do that, that's another FTE staff member there, right?
Right.
And so do that. So that's available. And we also wanted to make it not exclusive. So if you're already in a GPO, it doesn't matter. Just take the parts of our offerings that you can take advantage of.
This is about serving the people you actually want to help.
Yes.
Because you would not construct it this way if you wanted to maximize shareholder value.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And it's not a nonprofit, but it's built one. The operating agreement has me as the sole owner, and it has explicitly in there that I'm not allowed to ever get a distribution. So
I did not know that.
Yes.
But you've set up a perpetual trust. You think you've set up a trust.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah.
I'm going to ask you the obvious question. Where do people find you? Besides here at a booth at PMI, right?
Right. So, TrustedDoctorsAlliance.com.
Okay.
It's totally free to join. Again, it's made to not have a profit.
So not exclusive, free.
Yeah.
What's the downside?
Yeah, there isn't one.
Oh, okay. All right. I just doing that to make sure. Okay.
And the nice thing is, because we're all pediatricians in it, we're trying to sort of ask the pediatricians, what do you want?
Right.
What do you want now?
Yeah.
What else can we do for you? Now that as we grow and have leverage, let's use that.
Okay.
It's very important to me. I spent a lot of time and still do doing advocacy work.
Yep.
Like that's really important to me. I think it's important that we have, organizations like AAP doing amazing advocacy work for child health, for pediatrics generally.
Yep.
But we don't really have a entity per se that's just for the independent practice. And can we aggregate ourselves in some way so that we can speak for ourselves? Like other industries, hospitals have their own associations and lots of different types of groups speaking out for them. All industries have that. In pediatrics, we do not have that specific vote.
I've always appreciated the fact, or one of the reasons it's been easy for people, or PCC to support the AAP is because it's the kids.
Yes.
And there, as you know well, because you've gotten a lot of grief about it, there are all these people saying, no, we need to put ourselves first. I'm like, no, do it over there. Because keeping the kids first means I never have to second guess.
Yeah.
I never have to say,
right, North Star.
Yeah, all the nonsense that's happening right now about pediatricians and what they're greedy about. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You don't.
We're going to save lives.
Yeah.
This is really about their future,
right.
Our future as a society. And so keeping that first and foremost at AEP is critical and so important.
I couldn't agree more. So tell me, what's keeping you up at night right now?
What's interesting is the only thing that's really keeping me up at night is how can I go faster?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I feel, and not just me, but people who have great ideas, how can we accelerate them?
Yep.
Because there are a lot of people at this conference. There are so many people with great ideas. And how do we support them so that they can accomplish their amazing things faster?
You say you want to go faster because there are a lot of people who are good ideas. I always think about it as ideas are the easy part. Yeah. There's so many good ideas out there. We have a room full of really smart people.
Yes.
The ideas are the easy part. It's actually doing something and making change. And that's the hard part. And, that's something you've actually been really good at. You actually go do something.
Yeah. I think the idea is if you've It's a matter of being able to, you know, so I'm fortunate in that I'm in a space where I'm at a point in my career where I can do that. And I just have amazing people around me that can help. And that's so important because this is a team sport.
Right.
We have to
working with good people is
we have to do this together.
working with good people is the secret to your success, and working with the wrong people is the not the secret, but it's the point of failure for everything. Still, I like it, the North Star of pediatrics. It makes it easy to, I don't wake up at night saying, is this the right thing to do?
Right.
Like, it's easy.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yes.
what are you looking forward to in 2026?
Yeah, I'm excited about the growth of Trusted Doctors Alliance, quite frankly. Yeah, I mean, we have now 300 pediatric practices.
Have you signed anyone up this weekend?
We have.
Okay.
We're really excited. And so, because I think, again, the more people we can just aggregate, even if you don't use any of our services, if you just join us, it's free. Just to add your numbers to our
tax ID gets a
exactly.
You cross certain lines, and suddenly they're like, oh, well, here's another 10%. Everyone wins.
Right, exactly. So just being able to pull that together, I'd love to be able to go to payers and say, this is not fair what you're doing. This is not sustainable, and here are this many practices, and this is why it's important to pay attention to this.
Is this your not so subtle dream of having a national pediatric IPA?
Or something like it. I don't know if the IPA is the right model.
I follow you, but I've always dreamed about. I've always dreamed about. Okay, what if we went to pick your vendor, United, and say, look, we got 2,000 doctors on United. We will submit whatever data you want. You can do whatever quality stuff you want. I just want a 3% push. Yeah. I just want the teeniest, tiniest thing. So this was actually John's idea. He said, I want an EHR that pays the doctor. And because that's sort of the audacious thing that he was saying, like an EHR that pays the doctor. He's like, I just want it so that you sign up to use this EHR. It's not about the EHR, but now the work you're doing is generating revenue for you, not because you did the visit, but because all these people were extracting value from your work. And I was like, oh, that's I think about that a lot.
So I'll give you an example. Well, we have already a payer who has come, well, not a payer, but a group that works with the payer.
Okay.
Medicates.
Yep.
Okay. Who has come to us and said, we want to partner with you because we want to figure out how do we help pediatric practices do better. So, right. Amazing. Yeah.
I made a incredulous face. So I can't look. Yep.
And so we said, okay, what states are you in? There are only 7 of them right now. So, but they're growing. And so they have funding. So there's that. And they want to, now obviously they're working with the payer and they're getting funded by payers, by Medicaid, by the MCOs, et cetera, whatever their model is. But the reality is they have funding. And so when you have funding, how do we get them into the hands of the pediatricians? And so I think that's what happens when you get big enough and you have enough practice.
Right. Now people pay attention to you.
Now people pay attention to you and they start coming to you and saying, how can we work together and how do we figure that out?
All right. You and I are going to have to talk more. Okay. So last question. What advice would you give yourself 10 years ago? Knowing what you know now, what would you go back in time to say?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of what I was worried about 10 years ago. That was a long time ago.
2016. Yeah, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
A lot has happened.
So I think I had all 4 kids were at home and everybody was little.
So back it up. No, it's 10. Nothing magic about 10 years.
Yeah,
what advice would you give yourself 20 years ago?
Yeah. Well, I think understanding that at any point in time, you don't actually know what's going to happen.
Right.
And just to be comfortable with that.
Comfortable with chaos. Yeah, comfortable with change.
Just to know that it's going to be okay. I mean, you start with that premise and it's going to be fine.
By the way, you have an A+ slide on that topic. Those of you know what I'm talking about. That was I will tell you, when I saw you give that presentation, I was like, oh, I am in the presence of a master right now, because you did it. Your timing was so good, and your explanation, I was like, that is one of the top 5 slide deck slides I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, appreciate that.
For real.
Yeah. It's hard to top.
I mean, it's not even like, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. It wasn't even like you had awesome graphic art, or, okay, it was just a single photo and then it went to the next level. So anyway, some of you know what I'm talking about. It's great.
Yes.
Just don't go fishing with somebody. Sure. All right.
Or do. Or use a boat. But basically, yeah, I think understanding that nearly every problem that we think is unsolvable is probably solvable. But you have to put enough energy and all the thought and just work together. I think ultimately, even if you don't have the energy to do it yourself at the moment, then help to enable someone who does. I think we don't all have to solve all problems. We know we can't as individuals. But if you have a great idea, chances are there's someone out there who wants to help you implement that great idea. And it's a matter of finding those people and working together and making it happen. It's absolutely possible.
Okay, that's good. I'll take that advice today. All right. Well, Sandy, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me. This is fun.
I look forward to the Trusted Doctors Alliance taking over America.
Making pediatrics sustainable.
Yes, there we go. Ooh, MPSA. I might wear a red cap next PMI. I won't, don't worry. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you for listening. More information can be found in our show notes. Production and editing by Chip Hart, Ali Squires, and Chris Forleo. Music by Challenger C. I'm Mark Herney.